Hey guys, just want to see if I'm live on Facebook. Yep, I'm on Facebook and YouTube. Hey guys, how's it going? It's your boy M.K.S here, back with another video. Hope everyone's well wherever you are. Recently I've been really nervous and anxious. Sometimes you get like that, but I think I've been a bit under my anxiety, to be honest. But I suppose I want to do more writing, and also there were certain things I thought I don't know if I say this or not on my video or in my videos. I hope these record as well as possible, and we don't have and I don't have too many tech issues, or preferably no tech issues, because YouTube's done this strange thing with the clock that it sometimes does. Anyway, hopefully these record as well as possible, preferably at least on Facebook and should record on YouTube, and preferably on both. So yeah, I'm hoping they record as well as possible. I don't always have time to check back all the way. I might listen. Sometimes I listen to videos a bit in the background, but I don't probably listen to them properly. I just want to try and see if they upload as well as possible. But anyway, this is finally part 2. I'm over an hour later than planned. But in fact, my mum even invited me to come to a local Witherspoon pub for lunch, pub lunch, but for dinner, well, pub dinner. But I decided not to because I want to do these videos. But I just had Weetabix with sugar for my dinner, so and for my breakfast as well, breakfast, dinner and lunch today. But yeah, sorry, I don't know if people outside the UK have Weetabix and people know what Wetherspoons is. It's a pub franchise, Wetherspoon, and Weetabix is like this thing that has a lot of energy in, but I have to have it with sugar because it feels like it tastes like what I imagine cardboard would taste like, so I have it with sugar, unfortunately. But I needed the energy today. But anyhow, and I wanted to have a quick meal because I didn't want to take too much time because I'm already way behind schedule. I might try and have a salad later as well, but anyway, sorry, I'm going way off topic. But these are pointers number 11 to 20. As I say, I'm almost about, well, over an hour late anyway, because according to my mobile, it's 9:18, so 1 hour and 18 minutes late because I want to just, well, no, it's already started, but yeah, about an hour and 10 minutes or an hour and 15 minutes late, to be honest, behind schedule. But I'm hoping to feed the cat and go for a shower. And in part 3, I want to talk about what I think is quite a funny story about my cat. One is a bit of a scary story, a little bit for me, but another one is kind of funny. So I'll try and save the best till last as usual. But anyway, here goes. So as I say, these are pointers number 11 to 20. So number 11, I'd love to know, I'd love to read from and hear from indigenous people from all over the Americas, native people from all over the Americas, like whichever term you want to use, indigenous, native, homogenous, or whatever, what they would change about themselves, their situation, their life itself, the world, the way the world runs, the way the world works, or whatever. Basically anything they'd change about life, the world, or whatever, and that kind of thing. And I hope they can change their situation in a very positive way. I hope these videos do help as much as possible. Number 12, I hope that they support each other in projects like what I talked about in part 1, like works, by help each other to produce many works and work together to achieve things. So I often say on Mondays, I think like mentorship Mondays, but in this case it could kind of be mentors that teach and train each other and basically support each other. So for instance, Native American poets could help other people to become poets, more people to become poets. So those who have already become poets can pass on their skills and knowledge and experience and talk about what it takes and help others and bring them under their wing and help them to achieve. And that's what I think older people should be doing, in my opinion. Those who have done it, especially helping others, I think that'd be really cool. Again, these are my own personal opinions, but including that one. But also same for artists and writers. And I said that these ideas could also be applied for neurodivergent people and for other groups like Black people around the world and that kind of thing. Moving on, number 13, there were 1 or 2 things I was going to say, but I thought I'd save them for tomorrow. I keep thinking like if I do a certain thing, I have this strange sort of, it's almost like a superstition that if I do something, God will punish me, or either by hurting me or hurting someone I love or whatever. But I don't know why I keep thinking that. I hope it's just silly thing in my mind, a silly mental health problem or whatever. I think my dad said he used to experience stuff like that. To be honest, he goes, it's more common than you think. But I think, I don't know, say if I think of a certain thing, or if I think of something a bit naughty or whatever, so I don't know if I should say that, or I don't know, if I say a certain thing or do a certain thing, even if it's something silly, really, like even if it's not what you might call, what Muslims or Christians might call a sin or a haram or whatever. But yeah, even if it's like touching my cap or something like that, as an example, I don't know why, but or going to sleep at a certain time or doing certain things, it's a really weird thing. Like, part of me thinks it's just ridiculous to think that, but then another part of me thinks I don't want to risk that. So I wish I could stop thinking that. But yeah, there was some things I was going to say, but for some reason I thought if I say them, thinking about imagining them happening, so I didn't want to say them. But I know I normally say as well, for a selfish thing, moving on from some fears a little bit, I hope to help. Again, I know this is a bit off topic, but I hope to help Italian football to become world class. And I know that's a very selfish thing, but because I support Italian football just because I look Italian, I support them since I was young, and I love their kit, so it's a bit of nostalgia. And that kind of thing. I've supported them for more than half of my life, which has been a bit painful the last, not just my life, but being an Italy fan. But we are at risk not even qualifying for the World Cup. But I dream that massive changes will be made. Like, I think that maybe the board should be got rid of, and they should hire all the former players and appoint a new vision and like sort of make massive changes and improve things as they maybe get rid of the board, scrap it, and get new people in. I fear about whether things are going to go really downhill for Italian football, or continue to go downhill for Italian football and not get better. And I also fear for Celtic, his new manager, if we actually get the manager, and if he's going to do a good job, or it goes really wrong, it goes belly up, or whatever they want to call it, to put it politely. Some people use a different term, I don't want to swear if I can help it, but for goodness sake. But on a slightly more serious note, I fear also that if Celtic go for the cheaper option, like I've seen some videos of like Sean Maloney, I know I mentioned in part one again, but I feel like if the club just keeps him and the deal falls through for our new manager Wilfred, I hope I'm wrong obviously about these things, and I know it's a bit selfish and their first world problems. I normally see supporting Italian football as quite selfish because it's only because I think I look Italian, whereas I support Celtic, who were like the victims of crime, colonialism, that kind of thing as I see it. Which, to me, colonialism is a crime if it was done in another context. That's a whole different issue. That's a whole different story. But the key core crimes of colonialism, I couldn't pronounce it properly, that's how I put it. But yeah, I know they're first world problems. But going back to Native Americans, I'd love for them to benefit from their own stories, like the Wendigo. I think of Wendigo because it's a Wednesday, that kind of thing. Like I talked about Thunderbird yesterday, and I could think about that for Thursday as well. But because I discussed it on Tuesday yesterday, I don't know if I'll discuss it tomorrow, but I don't know, I'll see how I feel at the time. But I'd love for them to benefit from those stories through books, movies, and things like that, and their own basically scary tales and stories, urban legends, creepypastas, or whatever you want to call them, and that kind of thing, through books, YouTube videos, even TikTok as well, and through movies, films, or whatever, and that kind of thing. Whichever term you want to use, which I'd love to know which term do you prefer, films or movies, or do you think they're just about the same, or which term do you normally use, if any, or if not both, or whatever. I guess people will probably use at least one of those terms, if not both, but anyway. I think that covers everything for point number 13, but some of my worries I was thinking of covering, I think I'll cover those tomorrow, partly because I'm behind schedule, and partly because, I don't know why I've had this fear that, I don't know why I just don't want to mention them, because should be careful what I say, because sometimes I think what I say is going to come back to bite me. It's so cringeworthy, or if I offend people or bore people or say too much or whatever, or a combination of those things or whatever. But yeah, I'll cover it tomorrow anyway, put it simply. But moving on, number 14, I hope that they can solve problems like when I think of like cultural appropriation and like how people, cultural appropriation or whatever you call it, and how people might use like for instance, people on YouTube who are white or black or whatever. I've seen, the ones I've seen, I think, have mainly been white guys who, or even ladies who, white women who say stories about the Wendigo, and I think it would be good if Native Americans told those stories so they could benefit from them financially or whatnot. But I'd love for them to solve problems together and any issues they face, and hopefully I can solve the problem of my worries, over worrying and things like that. I wish I had more faith, but sometimes I feel God let me down with a few things, like I prayed for him or her to protect my paperwork, and one or two things like my cat not to pass away, and that didn't work out. So sometimes I feel I've had unanswered prayers or things like that, so I struggle to have the faith for various reasons, or just generally I'm quite a pessimist as well. So I do struggle to trust, including God or whatever. Or sometimes I worry whether God's on my side or whatever. But on that note, moving on, if you can think of any solutions like stop me from worrying or things like my mental health, please let me know in the comments. It'd be really cool to help me and maybe others who go through mental health issues or whatever, including from the Native American community or people just generally as well, because I normally try and talk about awareness of mental health and like be positive about mental health awareness and that kind of thing. Number 15, talking about money though, when I said about Native Americans making money from stories like the Wendigo and things like that, Native Americans' attitude to money might be very different. Like, for instance, I think people, like a lot of Native Americans say things about, I think it's like feathers and certain things that they have in their culture that, like they say, if you buy it, you're supposed to earn those things, but if you bought them, you just went out and bought them, it wouldn't have the same value. And I suppose it's a bit like when people say about a football team, like some Celtic supporters, I was thinking of, like, don't really want to have wealthy owners, or a lot of people complain about like Man City, Chelsea, and other football teams, soccer teams for any Americans out there, and that kind of thing, saying that they just bought success. Or if you just pay for things, it's not always as respected. Although you could argue you probably earned that money, supposedly. But I'd love to know from Native Americans different attitudes about money and what their goals are. So not just like what goals I push. Not that I want to push certain goals. I'd love to support Native Americans with what their ambition is, what their ambitions are in the plural. I'd love to network with Native Americans, and maybe I could convince them to support my goals as well, causes like my 5 causes, which I normally talk about, and remember my chain of thought. Help me to remember my chain of thought. What was I going to say? Sorry. Maybe I could sell the idea. That's what I'm going to say. Which to me is about psychology. Selling is like convincing people about doing something. So it's not just selling a product or a good or service or goods or services or whatever in the plural, but it's also like convincing people to do something you want to do or whatever. Which I suppose I'm not very good at selling, I've got to admit. Which is probably why I don't get too far in life. But some people say if you don't sell, you don't make it. Full stop or whatever. Or as Americans would say. The Americans would say, if you don't sell, you don't make it, period. But we would say full stop. But anyway. But yeah, I'd love to sell the idea for like Native Americans supporting, maybe to thank me for supporting them, to support like Italian football, Celtic, libertarianism, freedoms basically, and talk about what freedom means to them and things like that, and human rights, and work with other former colonies in their case, and other former colonized people, former colonized people, and that kind of thing, and tackling poverty and alleviating suffering. And I'm sure there's lots, again, what we could learn from Native Americans about making the world a better place and looking after nature. But as ever, I'd love to know what you think out there. Number 16, what if there could be committees, think tanks, cooperatives and whatnot which support Native Americans and their allies and Native people all over the Americas, I say, not just America itself, to work together, and what are the best ways to do that, and allies to support Native Americans. Again, I'd love to know from Native Americans, Native people from across the Americas, as much as possible. Hopefully, we'll watching these videos or getting involved in the comments could say like what they think would be the best ways for allies like myself to support them, and how they could work together, and what are the best ways to empower them generally, and also people to give tips to support them. For instance, I suppose it could be like I talked about poets, like Native American people who have become poets, artists, writers, or whatever, helping other people, especially younger people, to do that, and encouraging them and and wanting what's best for them. But it could be even people from outside in different communities. So it could be an Asian or white or black or whatever, Latino, Hispanic or whatever, or Jewish poet, artist, or writer, or a group of them who want to go and mentor and teach and train Native Americans. I suppose you do have to be careful, obviously, about like child protection and that sort of thing. So I hope they're aware of that, of course. But how can mentors how can allies mentor them and that kind of thing? Number 17, it would be interesting to see like if they could be empowered to become as wealthy as possible, and healthy and happy and joyous. And again, I'd love to know what success means to them and that kind of thing. But how can they build wealth? I know some Native American communities have already built wealth, but how can they share the wealth with each other, unite together and support each other, and invest together and pool their money and resources together and network together and support each other as much as possible? And again, use their imaginations and historical imaginations for like building stories through books and movies and things like that, and maybe even make scary songs with lyrics or that kind of thing. Yeah, how could they write up lyrics or poetry, art, writing, all those sorts of things, as I talk about, like Native American poor, and that kind of thing, as in poets, artists, and writers. Those who might not have seen part one or whatever, just to clarify. So POUR being an acronym for poets, artists, and writers. I know I mentioned it a few times in the past, but for those who might not have heard that or might have forgotten, just to clarify that. And talking of which, I'd love to, I probably mentioned this in part one, but I'd love to read about and find out and list and make videos like this about a list of 40 Native American poets, artists, and writers, respectively. I suppose I did mention that, but hopefully next July 2026, the first Wednesday of the month, maybe the first Wednesday, I'll talk about Italian football and the Selfish Dream, looking after number one, and then afterwards for the next, I think there should be 3 in that month, hopefully. 3 more, sorry, there should be 4 altogether. So for the next 3 Wednesdays, one Wednesday I could talk about Native American poets, 40 Native American poets, and then same for artists, and then the same for writers, just like I did for Black British people, for instance, and that kind of thing. In October, of course, only a month ago. Feels so long ago now in some ways, but moving on, number 18, I'd love to see what positive things we can learn from Native Americans. Number 19, I'd love to support Native American women in politics, business, tech, even STEM generally, and different areas. To see women's empowerment. I think it was W on Wednesdays. And number 20, that includes young people. I often mention that my least favorite saying is like respect your elders. I don't know what Native Americans have on that philosophy. I think most communities say respect your elders, but have I got that wrong? I sometimes question myself, but yeah, I wonder if I don't want to say I'm always right, or assume I'm right or whatever. But I'd love to know if you disagree with me, like on any point I raise. And if you made this far, I appreciate it so much. But do you think people should respect their elders, and why? And what does respect entail? Does it mean doing things people say without question? Like, say if an older person was taking drugs or smoking or drinking too much alcohol, I mean, not just a few, but too much or whatever, or eating the wrong foods, or not walking or doing exercise, or not going to the gym, not putting any effort in, and they were getting unhealthy, would respect really mean be just saying, oh yeah, I'll do what you want, yeah, I'll bring you things, I'll let you take drugs, I'll let you smoke, I'll let you drink or whatever? And one of the things I think is older people I think we should respect them if they are polite, but I think whoever respects us, we should respect regardless of age. In fact, the older you are, I think the higher standard, except for me, of course. I think generally speaking, we should hold older people to a higher standard. And I think if you're so old and you become disabled and you're unable to walk or if you're in a wheelchair, whether you're old or not, I guess, it would be harsh to expect you to walk to places. But I get really annoyed when older people don't go for walks, and expect to be healthy, and should expect that, like say, my son should do things for me, or my niece, or my nephew, or my daughter, or whatever. I suppose this point is not just relevant to Native Americans, but just generally, like people saying you should carry me things, bring me food, bring me drinks, or whatever. And I think people should get their own cutlery, dishes, drinks, food, and things like that, and should walk to the kitchen. And like when they finish with their plates or their dishes, a lot of people say, even if they say politely, like please take that, I still think it's being a bit lazy, but at least they're polite. But sometimes I'll say, yeah, take that, or yeah. And like my mum does that, and sometimes it really annoys me when she goes like, yeah, or Michael can do it, or Michael will do it, or whatever. Or if like sometimes they'll put things in your hand, like my mum will sometimes do, other people do it. Sometimes my dad does, but he doesn't live with me. But he did that to my brother. But I do find that a bit annoying. Like it feels a bit very disrespectful if people put things in your hand and don't bother looking at you, or don't say anything to you, or whatever. That's one of my pet peeves, I've got to say. And that's a bit off topic, but I wonder what Native Americans think about that. But those sorts of issues. But yeah, I wonder what Native American philosophy, that goes, bringing it back to the topic of the video, or members of the black community, or even neurodiverse people even think about that. Why do I say neurodivergent, or whatever? I seem to have a lisp sometimes, but or whatever. Lucky I don't have Tourette's, for goodness sake. No disrespect, I'm just low attempt humour there. But yeah, I think that like to me, anyone who says, excuse me, I'm older than you, or merely and simply I'm older than you, or respect for elders, to me, when they say that, I don't think they deserve good health, because I think you should be active. I think you should walk, and I think it makes people lazy. Like I think people should go for a walk every day. Like I'm really lazy, but I still manage to go for a walk every day pretty much. Sometimes it might be a 10 or 15 minute walk, but I still manage to leave my house. In fact, I've become even more mental and withdrawn and things like that. I feel really bad if I didn't leave my house. So as reclusive as I am, as lazy as I am, I always at least go for a little walk. And if I want something to eat or drink, I generally walk to the kitchen, generally speaking. Obviously, if I'm in a restaurant, or whatever, or in a cafe, it's a bit different. Obviously, I expect the waiter or waitress or whatever to do that. But when I'm at home, generally speaking, unless someone's making a cup of tea, and so you want a cup of tea, and I say, if you're making one, but generally speaking, I walk to and fro the kitchen, and to me, I deserve good health. And like everyone who, I'm not a bit biased in that, but maybe with my diet, maybe not, but if I could do a deal with my maker, and I'd say like every step you take, that song, every step you take, every move you make, I think you deserve better health. But anyway, I want to talk more about that at some point, if I want to get the chance, God willing and God's speed. I'll be thankful for the opportunity. I'd never be positive enough to thank God for life, I don't think, but I would thank God for the good things in life, like He heard my prayers, and for the chance to write and make videos and things like that. I'd love to do more of that sort of stuff. And I'm out, and peace and love. I'll feed the cat and have a shower. I'm 10 minutes late to feed the cat, so peace and love.